come into the frame more.
Yeah.
Well, we got to see your pretty face. All right. So, by the way, hold your mic close to your mouth as much as possible. That's good. So, I like to do the following way. I'll let you introduce yourself, why you're here, what you do, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the little tidbit.
Yeah.
Imagine I'm an officer and I'm stopping you for speeding. I need your information.
I'm in trouble then already.
So go ahead.
I'm Kevin. I'm a web performance consultant, been doing this for a few years. And recently we worked on the Learn Performance course for Web.dev.
Yeah.
In which we cover from the very beginnings, from this early things to cover for web performance, bit of the basics, and then we'll go into more detail about some more stuff. Super good to be here. The community is great. Get a lot of feedback. Get to speak to a lot of people. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. So is this your second time here, right? Or third?
Third.
Okay.
Third time.
Oh yes, because you saw my blasphemous keynote.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. Hey, folks. One day I said that Lighthouse was an important tool, and I think the crowd just whistled. You know, they were trying to be polite Europeans, but you know, whatever. So tell me, like, what got you into web performance?
So back then, when I attended the first time, I was already thinking that it is something which I want to do.
Yeah.
And I had an agency, so I was working with our own agency, and we used to find a lot of clients which want the performance but are not committed to it.
Yeah.
So, and then I started looking more at the performance of how to create the culture for the performance, how to get the investment, and to get the top people on board to invest in performance.
Yeah.
Eventually sold that agency and decided to focus on performance because it was taking up all of my time, actually. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to cover. And since then, I mean, it's been almost entirely working on the performance stuff. And that's where I am now.
And, you know, you're saying since then you've been working on entirely on performance full time. There's a lot of work involved in tuning performance.
Yes, a lot of work in tuning, a lot of work in measuring, which was, again, back then was something I was still quite new with. You mentioned the Lighthouse. We used to do the Lighthouse tests and share them to the clients. Then discovered the RAM and all these different things, custom metrics, and evolved on that over time. So a lot of time on measurement, a lot of time on learning. There's always new stuff to learn. And experimentation and stuff like this. So it's not just so much the implementation part, but also the bits which are like around it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we also know each other from the Web Performance Slack, which I know you're more active than I am because I always forget to go into Slack because it's another place that I got to check out.
Yeah.
And no, I'm changing laptops right now. It's a little complicated, but I'll be back in there. But, you know, you mentioned that you also are writing or contributing to a web performance course on Web.dev. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so Web.dev, they have just launched the Learn Performance course together with Jeremy, Rachel, and Perry.
Okay. Rachel,
Andrew.
Yes. Excellent.
And of course, so the scope of the course is to cover from the learning. So it's a learning course from the basics of web performance, a bit on how to measure, a bit on how to improve, what you should avoid, stuff like that. The course includes a bunch of demos as well. So even while writing the course and we were experimenting a bit with different scenarios, we uncovered some stuff which we maybe is not documented well or some stuff which we did not know. And eventually the course goes into a bit more detailed image performance, video performance, and covers quite a range of topics. So it's about 30 web workers as well. So about 13 modules so far, a few more coming out soon. And it was a lot of feedback as well from the community, even when something is not behaving like I expected it to. I would ask on the Slack, and people get into a discussion, start talking about it, absorb all the information, and write it down.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny you should say that because just like I've been saying 2 minutes ago, and I think you were there, you know, the conference is awesome to learn from amazing speakers, amazing talks, fantastic content. But a lot of the gems and discussions after the talk are just as important, sometimes more important, because you can hear some real-time feedback. So in your case, as you said, it's like, you know, the 13 modules are done. You, Jeremy, Barry, you know, Rachel, high five. But then you hear back from the community. It's like, hey, this, hey, that.
Yeah.
And I think people underestimate how important it is to, say, be at even reading a blog post and reading the comments. Because a lot of times, you know, the issues are being discussed in the comments, or, you know, an outlier is being discussed in the comments. So getting that feedback is so important.
Yes, I think, I mean, the feedback is one fundamental, even in the, for example, the example of the course, the content. Is it easy? Is it nice to consume? Are people reading it from beginning to top, or just skimming through it? It's all like helps to build a better course, better material. And I think the same applies for most of the stuff. Sort of, if you collect the feedback over here, you get to speak to lots of people. And they give you direct feedback, which online is maybe more difficult to get. So it comes, but I think speaking to people in person helps.
Absolutely.
Helps the conversation.
13 modules. Do you expect people to, you know, go from start to finish, or they can pick particular areas that they want to sort of like?
I mean, from what they know from the previous courses, they expect people to not go from beginning to end. There will be a topic which is more interesting for some user. They will go on the topic. They will cover that topic. But it would be interesting to see sort of once the content and what is being consumed, to see what people are interacting with. So, for example, I like working a lot with the demos. So I like to go on the demos, see the network tab or whatever, the performance panel. And understand the concept with like a bit hands-on, a bit of demos and stuff like this. Everything is on glitch, so you can remix it, test and experiment. So it would be interesting to see how users are consuming it. I think the expectation is they pick up module and module, but there's still something new. So it would be interesting to see how it is actually consumed.
And this is what I remember to ask. I've been saying this for the last few years, and, you know, I won't stop being that drum. I think the way performance is right now, like once upon a time, performance felt more like stopwatch, start, stop, look at the data. Okay, cool. Now it's like start, stop. Then you got to start, stop within the actual timing. And then look at every little detail within this sort of like, you know, I don't even know what to call it. Like a transaction, say, like what worked, what didn't work, where was the latency within this one finite moment. And, you know, we've created, I think, a very amazing situation where we can really fine tune, you know, and really work on like little issues. And in converse, it's made web performance, you know, a little challenging at times. So, you know, I felt that, getting back to my original point, that, you know, literacy, teaching web performance is absolutely, I feel, important in a developer's maturation right now, you know, and I'm assuming this is how the team feels as well.
Yes, and I mean, just now I had a good example with Estella, where we're looking at LCP. So in the beginning, we were just looking at LCP, it's one number, but now we're breaking it down into the different parts, which constitute the LCP, so the TTLB, the load delay and stuff like this. So this concept, and especially where the time being spent is not always where people are optimizing. So people are optimizing the image format. The file gets smaller, but the delay is actually the resource load delay until the image is discovered.
Absolutely.
So I think like this documentation of these concepts and how they are evolving, I think it helps people understand what is going on and focus the energy, the resources on the right thing instead of optimizing your image, make it discoverable.
Exactly. No, and that's, I think, the beauty of what we've been able to experience as, you know, web performance people, watching the research get more detailed every step. Because again, like you said, once upon a time, it was like, yo, make your image small. But, you know, we can still have like a 1 kilobyte GIF, and Yes, I said GIF. I said GIF, ladies and gentlemen. Sue me. You could, whatever. So a 1 kilobyte resource, but if it's not discoverable in time, if there's like some kind of bottleneck latency somewhere, it could take as much time as like a 20 kilobyte resource, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, it's very like these are interesting concepts that I think it's amazing that we have the opportunity to really break that down to people so they can leave like, I never thought of that, you know what I mean? And really be a bit more scrutinizing of what resources they use, but also how it's all set up and really doing some testing, Like even earlier, I didn't hear the whole talk, but Matt Hobbs today, he brought up the idea of, again, this is a conversation I feel is not had more times or enough times is like the devices, and for the third time today, I'm going to say it. I remember looking at RUM archive data and seeing over 2,000 different Android devices.
Yeah, there's a lot of device fragmentation.
Absolutely.
The network now is, I'm not sure how it is, but we don't have a lot of information, I think, on the network. But the devices, and it varies a lot by the time of day, the weekend, and stuff like this.
Yeah, and again, just user patterns that are very interesting, but provide so much insight. Paul Calvano years ago mentioned a study that, Colin Bendel, he used to be at Akamai, he's at Shopify. He also had like a study about I think you saw the patterns in Japan and, when people sometimes had to renew because they had like limited data plans, and you saw like near the end of the month every time this dip because they're using less data because it's like, oh, I'm about to run out and I don't want to go over, and then they're back up and I don't want to run out. You know what I mean? Like, comical, but this is the reality.
Yes, it is. And you might not notice it on, different demographics. So you might have different countries, different cultures, have different
user patterns.
Yeah, exactly.
Infrastructure is also a big deal. Years ago, I remember reading that, say in a typical, G7 country with great infrastructure, you might have like 300 people accessing a particular tower at the same time.
Yeah.
India, 7,000. So suddenly you're like, like nothing's coming through.
Even from Matt's talk, even in the UK, they've got some spots where it's under 10 megabytes.
Yeah.
The bandwidth. So.
Yeah. Developed countries where, I remember listening to a podcast in America, podcast by Mozilla, actually, who I think are sponsors, called IRL in real life, whatever. But they talked about like parts of like major cities in America where it's not happening. There's there's like the connectivity is horrible. People have to travel to like McDonald's, to get Wi-Fi, and stuff like that. Like, really bizarre scenarios. There was actually one really interesting example. Austin in America, the particular neighborhood, they set up a school bus that had Wi-Fi on the bus that would just like go around this little neighborhood sharing what it was like. What is going on here? But these are actual realities, So if we talk about caring for the community and making sure people have access, these are things we're trying to solve.
And there's always a thing that sometimes you don't think about these examples, like the PSP example and stuff like this, which you might not notice at first, or this kind of user.
Yeah. No, man, it's really, I think there's so much information, there's so much data out there. I think it's like awesome to read about, So, But speaking of reading, so once again, if the people want to start this course, what should they do?
Yeah, so head over to Web.dev /learn/performance.
Okay.
Over there you get the, table of contents, the different modules. And you can start top to bottom, or pick which module is most, interesting to you.
Yep. And do they have to sign up anything? Have a Gmail account?
No, there's no need for any sign up. Okay. There's no need to, at the bottom of each module, there's a little test.
Oh, there's a test.
There's a little test.
Oh.
Three questions.
Do you have to pass the test to go to the next module?
You don't. I was gonna say you don't need to pass any tests. You don't need to do any tests. And there are the demos as well, which complement each module. So we're checking out.
Excellent. Now, last two questions. What do you have planned for the future?
So immediate plan, I will go grab lunch.
Oh, okay. Immediate plan, but
that's immediate.
Professionally.
So by now I'm consulting on performance, so I'll be continuing on that. I enjoyed a lot the technical writing that I did as part of this course because it gives me a chance to dive quite into detail, which I might not have the time to do while working normally. So I hope to get or spend some more time on that, on technical writing. And spending a lot of time on different topics. So deep dives into different topics. Hopefully what I manage to spend some time on, at least in my free time, while my wife watches Grey's Anatomy.
What topic would that be if you had to do a deep dive? Say, like, if you had to write a technical, white paper, say, like, in the next month, what would you do?
So I'd spent quite a bit of time on the network priorities, Robin's topic from yesterday, and how it affects LCP. And Estella today covered the CRUPS data relating to the same topic. So I hope I will manage to get the queries, run them in CRUPS, and see how it is, how they all combine together. So out of the priority, how it affects the LCP. Because I hope or suspect there might be an easy win over there. So that's hope. In 1 month time, remind me.
Well, yeah, exactly. We'll figure it out. Would you consider writing a little book on it?
A book?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know, like a 20-page EPUB. I don't know.
Long form blog is the most. Like once I had the opportunity to write a book, it was taking so much time.
I know it is.
It was actually, they had like plans like from the marketing that they have to get 600 pages to make it sell or something.
Blah blah.
And that was way too much.
We can figure it out.
Stick to blogs.
Okay. And last question is, if people want to reach you, how do they do that?
So I am on Twitter, not very active. And on Mastodon, so you can find me as Kevin Farrugia.
Okay.
Or else on my website, by email or anything of the sort. I'm kev.dev.
Kev.dev?
Yeah, I'm kev.dev.
You were able to get that?
No, I had to get the IM at the beginning. So
okay.
Kev.dev is being parked, I think.
I was like, oh, you scored a good one.
I wanted it. I put up domain watch on it and it's still parked.
Yeah, cool. Well, man, Kev, thanks for spending some time. I really appreciate it. First of all, I'm glad that we got to hang out and speak finally. But let's definitely stay in touch about everything, and especially this course, because like we were talking about earlier, like I do have, I think, visions and plans, and hopefully we could all just kind of work in sync and stuff like that. So,
hopefully.
Awesome.